Most of us feel like we have very, very little autonomy. We're at our family's beck and call, our clients' beck and call, partners, the firm, you name it. And declining autonomy is one of the number one factors for low workplace satisfaction. So look for ways that you can exercise control. I love going to work out at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock. It feels like it's cheating. And it gives me that little hit of like, okay, I'm breaking the rule a little bit. I can come back to my office afterwards, wrap up for the day. You feel more energized. So look for those little ways you can exercise control for sure.
All right. Well, we are here with none other than the Emily Stedman, big law litigator from Hush Blackwell in Milwaukee. You can't see it right now, but clearly a Green Bay fan. I don't know how I feel about that. There you are. There you are. But joining us today to talk about her exceptional big law journey, how she has created an authentic presence on LinkedIn, and just some tips and tricks that anybody practicing law can use to help manage their time and be successful. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, Emily, let's just start it from the top. Where are you today? What does your practice look like? Tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. So I am a partner in the Milwaukee office of Hush Blackwell. I'm a commercial litigator. I have always been a litigator, and sort of uniquely, at least still for now, I'm a generalist. So I handle all types of business disputes for all types of businesses and business people, from contract renegotiation, getting out of contracts, all the way through trial and appeal. And I have been doing that since I finished my clerkship in 2016. So coming up on our just over 9 years now, I have been a commercial litigator here in Milwaukee. My practice is nationwide, though. My sweet spot's federal court, diversity jurisdiction, and all of that. I have cases currently from Tennessee to Kansas City and everywhere in between.
Any specific cases you really like?
Just ones that I can get in federal court. Really. I like being a commercial litigator because the overall legal principles don't change a whole lot from contract disputes, but the facts are always different. The parties are different, the companies are different, the industries are different, and that keeps me on my toes.
Yeah, for sure. Now, you've always been in a big law type environment. Is that right?
That is right.
I think it's fair to say that the big law journey isn't always easy.
That is correct.
So as you've navigated, hitting the big law street since 2016, have there been any times on that journey where you're like, oh my gosh, what am I doing with myself, my life, just questioning your life decisions?
Yeah, and I'll start all the way back in law school. So if you do well in law school, big law is where you're pushed, right? That's where the OCIs come from. And I was always skeptical of big law. I knew it was a big decision. I knew it would be a high commitment, high expectations, a lot of work, a lot of hours. And I was always skeptical. And in fact, I did not get one OCI because they knew I was skeptical. And they were like, yeah. And I'm like, well, you should be skeptical, right? You should go in with some questions. And right. So for me, clerking, I always wanted to clerk. My mom had clerked at the state court when I was younger. She went to law school later in life, and I was born while she was in law school. I remember her clerking. I remember her judge. So clerking was a way for me to take some extra time and figure out, am I going to do a big firm? And I really used that opportunity to talk to the judges who had been in big firms, to meet friends, talk to other co-clerks and law clerks that had either been in big firms or were now in big firms. Took that time to figure it out. And I was like, okay, I can give this a try. And I tend to have the attitude of, if I don't like it, I'll figure something out. Some of that is helped by the fact that I've never lived at home since going to college. And my fallback is like, oh, I'll just move home. Like, I could do that. So my clerkship ended in 2016, and I entered an AM law firm headquartered here in Milwaukee. And I spent the first year with my head down. I didn't make a ton of friends. I mean, I was close with my associates. We went out to lunch every month, but I just did the work trying to figure it out. Started to branch out and make friends the second year. And then, really, in that third year, by that time I'd been out of law school 6 years. So the responsibility's starting to rise. I'm starting to think through what this could look like long term. In 2019, I started to think, maybe this isn't it. Over a year, I sort of sat on that, and I didn't really talk
Oh,
openly
wow.
about it to anybody but my husband. I was having a really, really hard time. The pandemic then hit, that exacerbated everything. My husband and I got married during that time, like just managing a ton of stuff. And I remember thinking, maybe the law is not for me. Like, not just big law, maybe being an attorney is not for me. And really had to figure out what I was going to do and what it was going to look like from there.
I think it's pretty powerful that you admit that you wrestled with that for a year, because sometimes, like most lawyers, we're like pretty type A people. Like we want like to be decisive and to know. And what was it like just sitting on that for a year? What are you weighing? Like what kept you in?
Yeah.
Um, so other people that are wrestling with it, like there's safety in numbers.
Yeah. And I am rarely not decisive. Like, I can be overly decisive and decide things too quickly. So this was unusual for me. I think there were so many factors. One, my birth announcement is a joke about me being my parents' newest associate. So my parents are both attorneys. So this is all that was ever planned for my life and expected of me. So, like, walking away from that did not feel like a small decision.
Mm-hmm.
Two, I by that point had become fairly close with a couple people at my first firm, and I really struggled with what it would look like for me to go in their office and say, I'm out, right? Like, I couldn't imagine leaving them. Three, I didn't know what else I would do, right? Like, I hesitate to use the word or the phrase golden handcuffs. That's very real. I wasn't really there at the time, except, I am the breadwinner, so that there is an element of the financial wherewithal. Next, I didn't know that big law could be any different than what it was. And I think until that point, I had never really stopped and asked myself, what do I want? What kind of practice do I want? What do I want my life to look like? I had just been going through the motions, saying yes to whatever partners asked me to do, whether it was work I wanted to do or could see myself doing long term. So it felt like this huge thing I was having to think through. And at the same time, and I do talk fairly openly about this, my mental health just reached a point that was so outside of me and so beyond something I was used to dealing with that, I was scared. I just wasn't sure of really anything at that point. And the job felt secure, right? It felt like a crutch in a way.
Yeah. So the mental health piece is something as an industry we talk about a lot. But how did you, yeah, now that's true. But how did you identify that in yourself, and what were the steps that you took to say, okay, something needs to change? And then how do you go from recognizing that to actually doing that reflection and making those changes that aren't going to end you up in the exact same situation?
That's such a good question. So almost immediately upon entering Big Law, I got a therapist, and that was the first step. And I will say, I had to live in a dorm or sorority hall all 4 years of college. So as soon as I graduated, I got an apartment by myself, and I never lived with anybody again until I met my husband. And moving in with my husband, if you have a significant other, they're like a mirror, and they, for better or worse, you see all your strengths and weaknesses and all your traumas and all of that come out. And I realized how much I had been dealing with my stress on my own in the privacy of my apartment, that now I was feeling like I had to keep bottled up because I couldn't just, let it out at any time. I mean, ultimately you can, hopefully in front of your partner, but if you're like me, there's some insecurity around being that vulnerable in front of someone. And I met my husband 2 months before I started in Big Law. So he's been with me through the highs and lows of this whole journey. And so therapy helped a lot. Starting to open up to colleagues and friends in the legal profession helped a lot to realize I wasn't alone and that a lot of us were experiencing these insecurities and doubts.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately opening up to my parents. So my parents are boomers. I'm an elder millennial. This was not something we ever talked about. And I finally was just in such a dark space, and I had a full blown panic attack on
Wow.
a boat, deep sea fishing with my entire family. We had to call it short because I had to go back to shore.
Mm-hmm.
Through my dad kind of witnessing me experience that, it allowed me and him to open up and have some real conversations around it, and him share with me about his experiences as a lawyer and someone with anxiety. And that all really helped me realize I'm not alone. Like, I feel crazy, but I'm not crazy. It's quite normal. And really go from there. I can't speak highly enough of the medical profession.
Right.
You have to, sort of like anything in life, if you're going to get a service provider, and it's how clients think of us, you have to keep trying new people until you find someone who melds well with you. And I was lucky to have at that time, a primary care physician who I could really open up to about it as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of times some of that just comes down to, and I see junior lawyers struggle with this a lot, like understanding what boundaries you need where. And so having gone through that, what's like some advice that you would give to that generation coming up, how to establish those boundaries before it gets to that point?
Yeah. It's such a fine line.
Yeah.
So many of us who enter the legal profession, regardless of the job, so Big Law and elsewhere, we're type A, we're high achievers, we're used to getting gold stars. We've very rarely hit bumps. And if we have, we've overcome them pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
We've bounced back routinely. We don't like asking for help. We like to portray an image of perfection. So I am someone, I deeply struggle with boundaries. It is hard for me to say no. It is hard for me to pause and take breaks. And I really had to work on that for myself. And it's a double-edged sword. And how I talk about it for the younger generation is you are going to have to say yes more than you want to if your goal is to make partner one day. If your goal is to become the GC of a company. If you have those big goals, you need to work really hard and create a reputation for yourself of being reliable, independent, hard worker, responsive.
Mm-hmm.
Once you lay that foundation, you can start really having boundaries. I am not someone who'll say you can't have boundaries at all in the beginning and you can never say no. But it takes a building of that foundation for you to then really set up boundaries. So for me, what does that look like? I have my iPad set up essentially like a second computer, so I don't always take my laptop home. That is mind-blowing for some people. I can do almost everything I need to from my iPad, but that is a boundary for me. And I try to model that for associates. So we had a series of depositions earlier this year, and I told my team, I'm not taking my laptop home. I'm going to try to rest tonight. Here's my cell phone number. Call me if you need me. So another element is over communicating.
Mm-hmm.
2, something I wish I had done in the beginning is have hard and fast hobbies or workout routines, whatever your mental health thing is. Put it on your calendar, do it every day at the same time, and don't let up on that boundary. So now every Wednesday morning, I have a tennis lesson. Yes, I start work a little later in the day, and I a lot of times have to stay later. But that's a standing appointment on my calendar. And I could have done that in the beginning.
Yes.
And still been responsive to emails and in the office at a reasonable hour. So you can do some of that much sooner than you think and experiment with that. and set those boundaries. And it's hard. I'm still, what I tell associates who ask me about this is, I'm glad you're thinking about this as a first, second, or third year. I was not thinking about it. I should have been thinking about it.
It's all about having that calculated judgment. And I believe in the over communication and the calendar blocking. And you got to start small, right? Because starting out your journey, you've got to be responsive, you've got to be available. But for me, it was a light went off and I was like, oh, wow, I can share my calendar. So everybody on my team sees everything on my calendar, whether it's a personal appointment or, work related. And then, you got to do it by example. For me, like your tennis lesson, it's getting to the gym. Like I've got to work out. And so I have that time blocked. And I feel when they see that example, then they take the time to do it. But the consistency is really important. Have it be the same time every time. Because then you find just naturally over time, your schedule will build around that. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's with time blocking. So how I time block is my calendar is blocked as out of office Mondays until 1 p.m. and all day on Friday. And am I out of office? No. Am I working? Yes. I'm just trying not to have meetings during those times. Now we're recording this at 3:00 on a Friday. So obviously I make a calculated decision. And if that's what's most convenient for me or the other person, or, I'm a litigator, if the court orders it or I have a deposition or hearing, I do it during those times. But it reminds me to think twice before I give that time up. And I didn't tell anyone I was doing that. The only reason people know I do that is because I tell them I do that. Otherwise, no partner has ever been, Emily, why do you never offer to meet with me at 10 a.m. on Monday, right? No one's really micromanaging us sometimes the way our brains like to tell us they are.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's just, you don't get to control much, but you can try to control moments of time, right? And I like that. Yeah.
Yes. And so when I give my keynotes around lawyer well-being, I talk about autonomy. That was a huge light bulb for me when I was really researching well-being generally, and then researching well-being and mental health for attorneys. Autonomy kept coming up routinely. And so autonomy is the sense of exercising some control over your day. Most of us feel like we have very, very little autonomy. We're at our family's beck and call, our clients' beck and call, partners, the firm, you name it. And for me, exercising that little bit of control and choice over my calendar created such a sense of autonomy. And declining autonomy is one of the number one factors for low workplace satisfaction. So look for ways that you can exercise control. And so for me, I love going to work out at 2:00 or 3:00. It feels like it's cheating, and it gives me that little hit of okay, I'm breaking the rule a little bit. And, I've done most of my work for the day. I can come back to my office afterwards, wrap up for the day. You feel more energized. So look for those little ways you can exercise control for sure.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. And what I try to explain to the juniors coming up, the golden star is when you feel and recognize that you have autonomy in this profession, and you can do it, and you're typically able to do it when you're responsive, when you own it, when you get yourself out of a position where you have to be supervised on a regular basis. And once you figure that out, that unleashes a lot of the stress that comes with our day-to-day.
Absolutely. And I know we're going to get into LinkedIn later, but I haven't received a ton of critique from anyone to my face about what I post on LinkedIn. One of the first pieces of feedback I got was, just think through what you're empowering associates coming up behind you to do and when. And I had not thought through that, right? By the time I really had started posting on LinkedIn, I had built this reputation of being responsible and responsive and a good time manager and taking care of what I needed to do. So there's absolutely this element of building the bank of reputation and reliability, and then you can start cashing in on it.
Yeah, you raised the LinkedIn point, and we are going to talk about that because that's where I met you like years ago, um, which is one of the most powerful things that's been the LinkedIn community is just the people that you never would have networked with or gotten exposure to, and it's been really fun watching your LinkedIn voice and how you've established that. Certainly, it's been a talking point for firms across the country, right? Everyone's got to like build your brand on LinkedIn. It's not easy for everybody to do. So talk us through like how you started your LinkedIn journey. We'll dive into that as you go, but you
Sure.
did it. You ripped the Band-Aid off. You're like, I'm going to do it.
I did. So this actually relates back to that moment where I was thinking through what's next for
Mm-hmm.
me. So I was at my first firm, started to think about maybe this isn't the long-term fit for me. And one of those elements was, am I being myself here? Can I be myself here? I think the answer was no, and not because of any fault of that firm, right? Because I had never stopped to ask myself, like, what do I want? What do I want my career to look like? And what work do I want to actually be doing long term? And it was 2020 by that point. The pandemic was happening all around us, ruining everything in my mind. And I thought, well, if I can't get a job at another firm because it's 2020, maybe I will hang a shingle. I'll go out on my own. So I started reading books about opening your own law firm. And until that point, I had never identified as an entrepreneur or a businesswoman. And a light bulb went off reading those books. I thought one way I can create that sense of autonomy we've talked about is by treating the four walls of my office as the law firm of Emily Logan Stedman within this greater machine. And I found a lot of freedom in starting to think about my life as an associate as my own law firm and business. At the same time, I took a class, like a webinar on leveraging LinkedIn. I had not touched my LinkedIn profile since probably 2015 when I started looking for a job after my clerkship. And I just wanted to update my profile, make sure it was whatever it was supposed to be in 2020. And through that, I started following attorneys who were using LinkedIn like a blog. And I was like, oh, I've I've been a blogger off and on my whole life. Like, I love writing, I keep a journal. I could do that. And so I just started posting. And I've never gone back and looked at what I was posting in mid to late 2020. I don't want to go back and look. Someone might now that they're hearing me say this. I have no clue what I was posting in the beginning. I think it was a lot of reposts of other people's posts, commenting on other people's posts, or saying like, this article was interesting to me. But at the same time, I got tapped to be on the Wisconsin Task Force for Lawyer Wellbeing. So about once a week, I would share about the work we were doing there. And immediately people were DMing me. When they saw me in real life, they were saying, Emily, thank you for talking about this. Thank you for talking about mental health and well-being for lawyers and what a lot of us are actually experiencing. And I just thought, there's something here. I'm going to run with it. And by that time, I had gotten a job at my current firm, Hush Blackwell. And I said to myself, if they're not supportive, I'll move on. Like, it is so important to me to be wholly myself and truly authentic to who I am and own my career, that if it doesn't work out, I'll move on.
Mm-hmm.
And my firm has been remarkably and incredibly supportive of this. Almost immediately, it got me noticed. So I was a video speaker at our, Wellbeing in the Law Week. I was tapped to help other attorneys develop their LinkedIn profile. I got speaking engagements to the entire associate class, and it just took off and skyrocketed from there.
Yeah. So about your law firm, they actually link to your LinkedIn on your bio page, which is amazing.
Yes. Yeah. So I asked them to do that.
Oh,
yeah. And they're, again, remarkably supportive.
Yeah. So a lot of times, the firms want you to leverage it and use it, but then it's like, but are we going to cross over and have it be, part of the firm branding as well? So I thought that was really neat when I saw
But it's so connected. So I had never thought about this. And I can't even remember now where I figured this out. And it must have been earlier this year, the end of last year. And someone said, Emily, you should ask your firm how many people view your bio because of what, and the implication is because of what you're doing on LinkedIn. I was like, oh,
Interesting.
that's interesting. So I emailed my firm's marketing people and I was like, do y'all track like bio views?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, yeah. And I was like, well, can I know mine? And she was like, yeah, and interesting. You have the 6th highest views in the firm.
Wow.
And only one other woman was higher than me, and that was our firm chief executive. So
Oh,
I was
wow.
the highest attorney female in the firm, 6 top views at that time in the firm over the last year, all because people were, I think, either Googling me or clicking through on my LinkedIn back to my firm bio.
So yeah, a lot of the type A lawyers think, oh, what is the ROI, right? If I'm going to put myself out there in LinkedIn, what is the ROI? And that's incredible, like to have a data point, an objective data point.
Yeah, so bio views, and I'll say business development, right? We have to develop business. Business development can look very different for litigators. Why? And now I talk openly with clients about this. No one wants to sue or be sued. Like they don't want to talk to us, right? It's not a traditional way of business developing. So for me, it is a marathon. And over the last 2 years, so it probably took a good 3 years for me to start seeing regular referrals come in. Some are too small, some I'm conflicted out of, some don't become anything, right? Like you never know. But I am on people's mind. And honestly, not a bunch of people know big law litigators in Wisconsin. So that helps too. I mean, I've had people reach out to me from all over the country because they asked someone, hey, do you know a litigator in Wisconsin? And they're like, well, I follow this woman on LinkedIn.
Well, and the referral network is huge. As litigators, like that is a big piece of it.
For sure.
And I know if I'm ever conflicted out and I have a matter in your area, now I understand the federal court nexus too. Like,
yeah,
I'm calling Emily. And one of the best branding pieces that you have done is the Emily Litigates. I mean, I think about that all the time, right? Like,
yeah.
what does Emily do? She litigates. I mean, that's right.
Yeah. So I've stopped doing a little because we're not to get too nitty gritty on LinkedIn. I don't try to read or learn about the algorithm. Hashtags have sort of gone out of vogue on LinkedIn, but when I took my firm invited about, 10 to 20 of us who are active on LinkedIn to have these meetings with a LinkedIn consultant. And she said, you should have personalized hashtags. So I have Mindfully Emily, which for a long time was my like Twitter handle, Instagram handle, and Emily Litigates, because that is what I do. And that too has helped me. It has always been very hard for me to figure out how to talk genuinely and ethically about what I do as a litigator on LinkedIn. And that is still very hard for me. But using that hashtag has helped with that as well.
Interesting. So how does the hashtag help?
It gives me a reminder of like, that's what I do and that I should be talking about what I do. Because that is the referrals, right? And I'm not like a cocky person, but I'm pretty good at my job, right? So like I do, 9 years in now, have things to say about being a litigator and litigating and contract disputes. And so it sort of is a self-empowering tool to talk more about that.
How many followers do you have today?
23,000 something.
Wow. How long did it take to get to that point?
5 years.
Was there a metric in terms of, well, I hit like the 10,000 threshold and that changed thing? Was there a data point where you recognized?
It started coming a little faster, I think, once I hit the 5,000 mark. And some of it too is in full candor. It's probably equal parts me connecting with people who I think it would be worthwhile connecting with and people organically following me. And you see that kind of all come in waves, ebbs and flows. You can build a following on LinkedIn simply by connecting with other people and commenting on their posts.
Right.
So if there are content creators on LinkedIn that you love, follow them, engage with their posts, engage with the people commenting on their posts, connect with those people. I don't send a message with every connection, but I do if there's like a really specific reason for me to make that connection. And I just don't hesitate to do that. Yeah, I would say over the last 2 years, it started to happen faster. And some of it too is you can kind of tell when they change or edit or whatever, they recode the algorithm. And, for a month, you might have very many fewer impressions and engagements, and then it comes back. So none of it happens fast.
I mean, I've been following you for years, and, my draw to you was just your authenticity. And I feel that you've kept that all the way through, which I think is really important.
That's been incredibly important for me. And I think like in that moment when I was like, what do I want my life to be? What do I want my career to be? Is Big Law where I want to be? I had this, I just need to be myself. And there was an acknowledgement of like, yeah, I like being a big law attorney. I like being a corporate employee. I like having an office downtown. For whatever reason, this suits me and my personality very well. And it was actually my husband who was like, I think you just need a change of environment. Like you are meant to be an attorney. You need a change. And that's fine. Not everyone stays at their same firm for a long time. I hoped to at my first firm. I didn't. I hope to at my current firm, but your career is your own and you need to be authentic. People have described me as brave, and I struggle with adopting that adjective for myself because at this point, I know no other way to be. Like, it is so critically important to me to talk openly about these things so that no one else, or at least one other person, doesn't have to experience the low point that I experienced. And what keeps it for me, keeps it going, is the DM. So if you're listening to this and you've never engaged with my content, but it's impacted you, that's all that matters to me. And maybe once a month, someone completely random who very well likely has never engaged with or commented or liked or reacted to my content will reach out and say, how you talk about your billable hours helped me. I've met my billable hour requirement 3 months in a row. Or I'm transitioning from, someone did it this week, I'm transitioning back to private practice. Your podcast has really helped me with that. Those are what keep me going, and know that using my authentic voice is what matters.
Well, funny you say that. I have the record of the first time I DM'd you because I followed you for a long time, never engaged anything other than just paying attention and just being really proud of you, right? Whenever you see,
Thank you.
especially in the big law world, like the women, we got to stick together. When you see somebody just owning a space and being confident and putting their voice out there, I feel a lot of people don't start this social media, the LinkedIn journey, because they are so scared of the criticism that's going to come, or, the negative pieces that are going to come. And I wrote you on March 5th, 2024, following a post that you did that just got a visceral reaction from some people. And you were just very open about, hey, I'd like to work hard, and I like to get, like, you work hard, like, there's rewards for that. Yeah, and I just said, I love your post because you're open and proud about working hard. It's okay to want to work hard and get paid for it. Ignore the noise, keep being you, here if you need anything, and keep billing.
Exactly. I did not know Katy was going to do that, by the way. I had no clue. I just set her up perfectly.
Well, no, but I mean, that's the point, is you don't know who's out there watching, paying attention, getting something from it. And for me that day, I was really proud of your messaging and just saying, hey, I can be a really proud litigator in this space, loving what I do, working really hard. Yes, I talk about like the amount of hours and the billing time. But
it really triggers some people.
Right. So what advice do you give to people that don't want to make that step because they're just so scared of that whirlwind that's going to come? Like, what is your advice for that?
Yeah, I like LinkedIn because there are boundaries. They're getting blurred in the current climate, whatever you want to call it, that we're living in 2025. But for the most part, there are boundaries on LinkedIn. It is a professional platform. It's supposed to be about work and networking and professional developing. That really helps me stay in my lane. Two, I have from the jump imagined a curmudgeon old school partner on my shoulder who's like, we should never talk about these things. We don't use social media. And I've just said to myself, unless they're coming to me and telling me in person, I'm going to try not to worry about them. And only 4 times in the 5 years that I've been doing this has someone come to me and called out something I've said. And only one of those times did I think it was unconstructive criticism. Otherwise, I welcome it. Bring it to me. I'll incorporate it. I'll update what I do. I welcome that feedback. And that's sort of what you have to do. 3, if you have an authentic voice and something to say, you will have an audience. They will find you. I have the tiniest of tiny podcasts. My podcast is purposely tiny. I don't have guests. The episodes are maximum 15 minutes. And that's just to get another audience, right? I've had that podcast for just over a year, and I've had 8,000 unique downloads of it. To some, that's nothing. To me, that's a ton.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Right. So if you have an authentic voice and something to say, people will find you. But at the same time, like if you're at a big firm, I think in 2025, go to your marketing team, ask them what the rules are, review your firm's. I now regularly review my firm's social media policy, figure out what it is, and work within it.
And they'll be supportive. I started Athena Talks at my prior firm, and I sat down with the general counsel, and she was amazing about it and incredibly supportive. So they want to get you to yes. So it shouldn't be a scary question.
Well, and in these big firms, I only just kind of realized this. A lot of times we think there's one way to do something. The law is so traditional, so hierarchical. My firm has 1,100 attorneys. We're all pretty much doing it our own way, right? With our own spin. So most marketing teams, at least, are going to realize that it is going to look different for some people, and they want to help you make that happen because they want the firm to make more money, and they make more money if they keep you and you're developing business. There is a way to make it a win-win situation for both you and your firm.
Business typically comes in our world with the billable hour, and I've got to say, people are interested in following you. A lot of what you write about is managing that billable hour, but you are absolutely the most optimistic person on a topic that has so many negative connotations and just, feels suffocating to so many people, especially people starting out. So what are your tips with this billable hour? So we can all have your mindset and just own it and embrace it.
Yeah. So if you're first year, if you're looking at a summer associateship, billing by the hour, tracking everything you do is not natural. It's not intuitive. Your firm at your orientation will try to tell you how to do it. You can ask other attorneys how to do it. You'll start doing it, and it will just be a slog. That's normal. It happens to all of us. The critical thing about the billable hour at first is to make it a daily habit. You need to be tracking your time in real time, and you need to be striving to enter it every day. I will die on that hill. 2, you need to be willing to experiment with your system and go until you find one that works for you and that can be a habit. And so you might look at my content, you might hear me talk about how I do it and try it, and it's awful for you. That's fine. Figure out a system that works for you and allows it to become instinctual and habitual. 3, the billable hour is what it is. So sure, am I optimistic about it? Some days, but I think I'm just a realist. Like, it's neutral. When I met my husband, he had a job that he had to clock in and clock out of. That would be awful, right? Yeah, but that's the billable hour. The billable hour is the equivalent of that for us. So it doesn't have to be this boogeyman. It can be a net neutral. This is just part of my job. And so that mentality helped it never be this thing that I have felt the weight of. That said, my first 2 years as an associate, I got to month 10, realized I needed to bill 200 hours or more to meet my billable hour requirement. And I just finally said, there's got to be a way to avoid that, where I can be more mindful of my target on a month by month, even weekly or daily basis, rather than getting to the end of the year and having to crunch out, 250, 300 hours a month to meet that requirement. Now, if you're experiencing that, I do want to make sure that's normal and we've all been there. And I found this woman, I'm going to forget her last name. Her name's Heather. She was a big law attorney in Nashville. She was probably the first lawyer podcast I ever came across in 2018 or 19. And she talked about how she broke her billable hour goal from a yearly to a monthly to a weekly to a daily target. And that just, a light bulb went off for me. I can know where I stand every day. So I have a monthly review process where I know what my monthly target is. I look at my calendar and I say, oh, on that Thursday, I have a doctor's appointment in the morning and then I'm traveling for fun. Like maybe I'm going on vacation. So that's going to be a 0 billable day. Or I have a doctor's appointment and it's only going to be a half billable day. And I put that in a formula and I make a daily, weekly, and monthly goal. And ever since I started doing that, I've never gotten to the end of the year and had to do this crunch. It's been able to be steady. And I get a couple pushbacks from that. What if work is slow? Work is always going to come with slow times. It will ebb and flow. That's the hardest part of the job for me. No 2 days are alike. That's the hardest part of the job for me. That is why you track and bill all your non-billable time and investment time. It's now at some firms being called productive time. If you are doing something that moves your career, your firm, your community involvement, mentoring, diversity, recruiting forward, track and enter that time. Most firms have a non-billable number that you can bill that time to in your system. That way, when you get to your annual review, you can show, yes, I was slow, but I wasn't twiddling my thumbs. I was going to CLEs, writing articles, whatever it is. And the work always ebbs and flows. So if it's slow now, you might have a big month next month or 2 months. And knowing where you stand helps me with that. It also helps me walk away. Like we're talking about mental health. If I'm caught up on my hours and nothing on my docket is time sensitive, I am now able, almost guilt-free, not always, to tell myself, you can take a break, Emily. Like things are tidied up. And that is that autonomy too we're talking about. And that has been transformative. I'm not a big vacation taker. That can bite me. I definitely need a vacation right now. I'm a big let's go up to the lake for a weekend and I can leave early on Friday because everything's taken care of and I'm on track for my hours, right? It helps me with that self-talk.
Yeah. So what I take away from that is Emily Litigate's way of billing is one, releasing daily. I feel like I have that conversation every week, but releasing daily, just the mental load that comes off of just releasing your time. Yeah.
Exactly.
Having a system and making sure you're touching that system monthly. 3, so much of success on this journey comes down to ownership and not waiting for the firm to have a conversation with you come October saying, wait a second, do you know where you are? We know where you are. And it probably isn't going to match up because we're going to get ahead of this conversation before bonus time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm not going to sit here and say I enter my time every day. Now, my firm just gave us metrics where I can see out of 100% how high I am, and I'm very high. Yeah. But there are days where I just leave the office and have to run to an event, or I'm meeting my husband for dinner, or the deposition goes late and I don't enter my time. But then I have routines. So the next morning when I sit down at my desk, entering my time is part of that routine. So it's never more than 24 hours behind. And exactly to your point, Katy, it is never hanging over me then. And all the studies show if you're waiting to write and enter and release your time till once a week or once a month, you're losing potentially hundreds of hours a year. up to like 200, 250 hours a year.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that for your raise, your bonus, and your promotions,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you can think about it selfishly like that. It is okay. You're only hurting yourself by not having that system. And it doesn't have to be this weight hanging over you.
Yeah, and it comes back down to the reputation you want to create for yourself. And a lot of times, partners are going to get impression by reviewing bills. And you can absolutely tell a difference between somebody that jammed it all in at the end of the month to somebody that's doing it every day. And it's not only capturing the time, which turns into revenue, which turns into a lot of other things, but also capturing the narrative. And we owe our clients thoughtful narratives about how we're adding value and moving the work product forward. And you are not going to be able to come up with that narrative the last day of the month.
No, or by looking back at your emails.
Yeah.
Right. I was talking with an associate today and he's like, I did research for 5 hours. And, you know, it's easy for me to say this now because I've been doing it so long. And I didn't think about this when I was a third year, like this associate. But now you're not just researching in those 5 hours. You are researching and reviewing cases, but you're synthesizing the information, you're summarizing it. You know, these are the action verbs that of all the things and elements of your job you're doing in that time, and that thoughtful narrative to justify what you've done and how long. Like you, instead of your knee-jerk reaction being, I should discount my time and write off some of this time before I even enter it, it should be, no, I need to beef up my time narrative to justify that time.
Well, one final question for you before you get to
Go
start
on
on Friday. Hopefully you're going out to the lake this weekend. Are the leaves changing yet? I missed it.
They probably are in northern Wisconsin.
All right. So you get to go back in time, the time machine, and talk to 1L Emily. What are you telling her?
Oh my gosh. 1L Emily. Oh man. 1L Emily thought she was going to be a criminal defense attorney or a prosecutor. 1L Emily never thought she'd be a corporate attorney or businesswoman. She'd have no clue. She'd have no clue that she would one day stop being able to self-manage her anxiety or, you know, be invited to be keynote speakers at conferences. Like I say this to people a lot. If you look on my LinkedIn, if I were to send you my resume, it looks very traditional and very linear. Internally in my mind and in my experiences, it has been anything but. And I'm just so proud of 1L Emily for being open to those opportunities wherever they took her, including to Wisconsin, because that was not the plan. And I'm also proud of 1L Emily because she learned to relax in law school. I was a very uptight undergrad student, did not have any fun, don't have a ton of friends from undergrad. And law school Emily made the best friends of her life. I probably, a big reason that I did so well in law school was because I was more well-rounded in my social life and building those relationships and listening to my friends like who were like, Emily, you need to run for editor-in-chief of the Law Journal. What? Me? And I became that. So I would just say, Emily, I'm proud and you have no clue what's ahead of you. You will be living in Wisconsin for 12 years come 2025 and you will love it. And
yeah,
she'd be shocked.
Yeah, right? Like you can't, as much as we want to control the situations, like you can't control your destiny. So
when I graduated law school, I did not know who Aaron Rodgers was. And now I'm doing this podcast interview in a Packers sweater. So
well, I have to say I am incredibly proud of partner Emily, and just thank you for letting me be a fly on the wall on your journey. I've enjoyed getting to know you, and just keep what you're doing on LinkedIn because it's touching a lot of people.
It is mutual. Thank you so much for having me. It's a joy chatting with you.
Yeah, thank you.